ever.
Really?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's crazy, by the way. That is actually nuts. God damn, the Democratic Party is so unimaginably conservative. Like, this country is so goddamn captive to the most insane right-wing sociopaths, dude. I don't know if I have the Kamala
Madam
Harris.
Vice President,
I don't
Alex,
know if I can
welcome to Call Her.
This has 38,000 views? No way. This is a re-upload, right?
Her Daddy.
It is good to be with you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
We're in the final stretch of the election.
Yes.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. And I'm feeling nervous. You know, there's this old adage, there are only two ways to run, without an opponent or scared. So there you go. The only thing that matters is really just spending as much time as I can, as much time as I possibly can, meeting with people and talking with them about the stakes and their future.
I'm curious, like, you don't do too many long form interviews. What made you want to do Call Her Daddy today?
Well, I think you and your listeners have really got this thing right, which is one of the best ways to communicate with people is to be real, you know, and to talk about the things that people really care about. I mean, what I love about what you do is that
Oh my God. Oh,
your voice and
this is a barred out one, dude. This is a barred out one.
your show is really about your listeners. And I think especially now, this is a moment in the country and in life where people really want to know they're seen and heard and that they're part of a community, that they're not out there alone. And so I'm really glad to be with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time. I know you're a very busy person. I really like to get to know people on my show.
Okay.
Obviously, we are going to talk about all the issues that are going on, but I also want to get to know you as a person today. Is that okay with you?
Of course.
Okay, let's get into it. Growing up, my mother is a psychologist. Yes.
Oh, how is that?
Oh, it was great question. Now in hindsight, like fabulous.
Yeah.
When I was in it, I was like, Mom, why do you know everything? Like, leave me
Yeah.
alone. But
Yeah.
one thing I really valued was she really emphasized the importance of mental health and
Yes.
talking about our feelings and
Yeah.
communicating. And
Yeah.
I know that you were primarily raised by your mother.
Yes.
Can you share with me, like, what values did your mom instill in you from a young age?
Well, you know, similar to what you described about your mother, my mother definitely impressed upon us the importance of us being able to express how we were feeling. And a lot of it, I think, was also about her teaching us that we had agency. And so that things don't just happen to you. And so think about.
I think there's something pretty crazy about the fact that someone who is potentially going to become the first female president of the United States of America is going on a podcast called Call Her Daddy. Like, what a wild political cycle.
How you were feeling, not just as a way to dump, but also as a way to kind of figure out where you are in a moment, right? And center yourself. I mean, to your point, when I got older, like when I was in, I don't know, late teens, my
Absolutely wild and unexpected disclaimer in the morning shots today. Call Her Daddy. Amid yet another round of growing Democratic nervousness that her campaign is playing things too safe, Kamala Harris is stepping out this week for a significant round of interviews. Over the weekend, she taped a CBS interview that'll be aired tonight on 60 Minutes. You can catch a preview of the clip of interview here. She'll be on Late Show and The View. She'll also do an interview with Howard Stern. Meanwhile, Tim Waltz, who appeared on Fox News yesterday, will make an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel tonight. The first stop on Harris's Media Blitz tour came yesterday when she did a women-focused interview with Alex Cooper, host of the uber-popular Call Her Daddy podcast. Editor note and disclaimer, Bill Kristol is a founding member of the Daddy Gang. Bill Kristol? Robert Skvarla says, imagine you're a CIA officer in 1951. Your job involves creating a new magazine called Encounter. One of its editors will be Irving Kristol. Suddenly, you're struck by a premonition. In 70 years, you'll be indirectly responsible for something called Call Her Daddy. What do you do? Oh my God. Bill Kristol is a founding member of the Daddy Gang? What is going on? Why? Dude, America is such a weird. Dude, this is literally just like, I guess it makes sense. I mean, Tucker Carlson, no wonder people become like conspiracy brained people, dude. Tucker Carlson's dad is literally a CIA member. Okay. Tucker Carlson's dad is responsible for, Tucker Carlson's father is responsible for Voice of America, or was it Radio Free Europe or whatever? Bill Kristol is an American neoconservative writer. Kristol is now the editor-at-large of the center-right publication The Bulwark and has been the host of Conversations with Bill Kristol. Kristol played a leading role in the defeat of the Clinton healthcare plan of 1993, as well as advocating for the 2003 invasion of Iraq. He has been associated with a number of conservative think tanks. He was a chairman of the New Citizenship Project. In 1997, he co-founded the Project for the New American Century, PNAC, with Robert Kagan. He's a member of the Board of Trustees for the Manhattan Institute Policy Research, which is an American conservative think tank, which houses the likes of, if I'm not mistaken, Christopher Rufo, right? Christopher Rufo is the Manhattan Institute guy, right? I think. Wait, let me not get that wrong. I think so. I think he's Manhattan Institute. Yeah, that Manhattan Institute. You remember Christopher Rufo? The guy who was like leading the charge on the CRT and also woke, DEI, that sort of stuff. Yeah, here he is, the GOAT. So Bill Kristol is one of the board of the trustees for the Free Market Manhattan Institute Policy Research. He's also a director of the Foreign Policy Initiative. He is one of the 3 board members of Keep America Safe. One day, 20 years from now, the Bulwark's White House correspondent is saying it was a joke. Oh, he is? Oh, it is a joke? Why would you say that? Hi, Alec. This was, we thought, obviously a joke. Bro, you can't say that that's a joke. You put in a editor's note. How is that? Why would you joke about that's a insane. That's not a joke, man. A great joke, too? No, that's not a great joke. No, this isn't a why did it lie moment, you This is exactly how it's supposed to be done in normal news coverage. What are you stupid? This is not The Onion. This is a goddamn news publication. Are you guys stupid? It's like the New York Times in a article headline being like, Iran launched his nukes, and then turning around and being like, why does it lie? If the New York Times reports Iran launched its nukes, then you're going to assume Iran launched its nukes. There's a difference. This is supposed to be, that's an unverified screenshot, not an article. It's a screenshot from the article. Why would you, dude, I'm sorry. You guys are insane if you consider a news organization writing a editor's note when normally they put in the editor's note as a conflict of interest oftentimes, you know what I mean, in the exact same format. There is a major difference between clickbait headlines and something being added onto the article. Oh my God. I know you're losing your when you start hugging the mic, Lamau. I mean, I am losing my Anyway, regardless, one day I do think this about the Never Trump Republicans, okay? I do think personally that one day, 20 years down the line, okay, 20 years down the line, we are going to be reading news articles, if America still exists, about how the Republican neocons of the Bush administration expertly took advantage of the chaos that was happening in the aftermath of the first Trump presidency to completely overtake the Democratic Party and reshape it in their own vision. Okay? Mark my words. We're going to be doing how do we get here type news articles about how the Republican Party expertly infiltrated the Democratic Party and reshaped it in its own vision. Because we're there right now. I'm just saying it'll take 20 years for the news media to turn around and write these like how do we get here articles. Based rant to cover for your mistake. No, I mean that part is still true regardless of the Bill Kristol aspect of it. Is it expertly infiltrated if Biden and Kamala openly invited them in? To a certain degree, they took advantage of the lack of interest and the lack of interest from the Democratic Party's like top officials in maybe reading the room a little bit better and only reading the rooms full of donors. That's what the major problem here is. You will see. It's already happening currently.
20s. If I came home with a problem I'm telling you, every time if I came home with a problem, the first thing my mother would do is she would look at me like other mothers, I believe, were hugging their kids and like, oh, honey, what can I do? And my mother, the first thing, what did you do? But here's the thing that I realized. She was actually teaching me.
I think the Cheney era Republicans have been sliding in the Democratic Party for a lot longer. No, I know. This is the final culmination of that project. I'm not saying that it's happening overnight. It's been happening far before. It's been happening far before the Lincoln Project even started its initiative as like Never Trump Republicans. They realized that they can just basically overtake the Democratic Party and reshape it in their own image. A party that presents stability, okay? A party that represents stability with Republican policies. It's been going on for quite some time with like third way, with third way politics. What is the last version of that? I mean, it's just all neoliberalism through and through. They welcomed it with open arms, especially since the Clinton era. But now they're directly adopting actual former Republicans. They're directly adopting actual former Republicans. Look no further than David Frum. He said it in the Newsweek article that we just read. We've moved away from neoliberalism to like neoconservatism at this point for the Democratic Party. Anyway, you should be focusing on the top of the hour ad break instead of all this stuff, though, because it's coming for you.
Think about where you had agency in that moment. And think about what you had the choice to do or not do. And like, don't let things just happen to you. And I realized that was a really powerful thing she was teaching, which is figure out how you can take charge of a moment.
Yeah.
You can't always. We don't have control of everything, obviously, but don't just let things happen to you without thinking about, okay, what can I do?
Oh, by the way, I'm working on getting Ta-Nehisi Coates on the broadcast and specifically talking to him about like obviously his change of heart, but more importantly than that, because that's been covered quite a bit in mainstream outlets. I want to talk to him specifically about the way that the media used to celebrate him and how much that relationship has almost changed overnight into a directly hostile relationship as a consequence of him speaking truth to matters that he watched unfold in front of his eyes.
Do in this moment.
It's fun to hear you say that because these are themes that I've talked about on my show before of like, we can sit here and dwell on something that happened to us, but then we can also say, yeah, but what could I have done in that situation to have autonomy over my life? People can do things to you, but you can only decide how you're going to react. That's all you have control over, right?
But that's exactly right. But that's exactly right. And in that way, you realize don't let anyone take your power from you. You know, that's so important. I mean, the other thing my mother would say all the time, and I'm going to quote, is don't do anything half-assed.
Yeah. I'm curious when you're saying that about, you know, have agency over your own life and don't let things just happen to you, like take control and take accountability. How have you put that into being the vice president of the United States?
A lot of my career was as a prosecutor. And so it was about really wanting to protect the most vulnerable and where they did not have the power. And it wasn't of their own choosing, but because they were the subject of abuse, because they were the subject of an imbalance of power, right? And so a lot of the work that I've done has been about wanting to restore, to the extent I can play a role.
Here's the cut 7-minute
One out of three
version.
women are by.
At a rally in Pennsylvania, former president.
So they put like a 7-minute video, and from what I heard, like a lot of the comments were very upset. It turns out that the current ratio 6 hours ago was 12K likes versus 49K dislikes. Apparently her audience hates it. Her audience absolutely hates it. Yeah, I mean, it probably got brigaded. YouTube comments are notoriously conservative. Yeah, but I could totally see Call Her Daddy podcast like audience being somewhat right wing. It is a former Barstool. It is a former Barstool publication after all. And her audience is predominantly white women. And white women, well, let's just say they're still holding on to that good old Republican Party, okay? they're still desperately clinging on to whatever crumb of power they feel they will have over minorities by remembering that they're white. And I guess simultaneously forgetting that they are women. You knew about this podcast before Kamala went on? Call Her Daddy? Yeah, it's a massive podcast for years now. This person, I think, has like $100 million contract from Spotify, for the record. For those asking why Harris went on Call Her Daddy, NPR obtained audience data on the show from Edison Research. 70% women, 76% under 35, 93 under 45, 48% Democrat, 24% Republican, 20% independent. 34% live in the South, 24% in the West, 22% in the Northeast, and 20% in the Midwest. Told you, vocal minority as always. I mean,
in that they're right to have justice, to have voice.
Not anymore. She's signed an agreement with Sirius XM now. Didn't she get like $100 million? No shot. It's 70% women. No, it makes sense. It makes sense. Also, I need you to understand why conservatives. Okay, calm down, guys. I need you to understand something that is very significant here. It's a 70% women audience, and 76% of the audience is under 35. Women under 35 are insanely Democrat leaning. So the fact that they're 48% Democrat means that this is an unimaginably conservative female audience, as in an unimaginably white female audience. Come on, dude. The are you talking about? That's why she went on there. Like, this data doesn't ring any alarm bells for you, dude, at all. Look at the percentage of Democrat Party voters in the under 35% demographic for women. I'm right. Her audience is very conservative, much more conservative than the average under 35 female demographic.
You know, right now, this fight for what we need to do around reproductive freedom is, I mean, could it be more at its core about just the basic right any individual of whatever gender has to make decisions about their own body and not have their government tell them what to do? Or even voting.
Yeah.
Right? About saying, look, I know that there's cynicism. I know that there's a real feeling that, well, what does it matter? Does my voice matter? But a lot of my push to kind of hopefully convince people that they should vote is because you should never let anybody take your power from you. And voting is one of the ways that you use your voice to determine who your government will be and what your future will be by your government.
You've already made history. You are the first female vice president.
Yeah.
You could very well become the next president of the United States. What do you think your mom would say?
Well, okay, so let me just tell you what my mother did say.
Oh, I was looking at the wrong thing. I wanted to watch
President
this.
Trump recently told women, "You will be protected and I will be your protector." What do you make of that?
So he who, when he was president, hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did just as he intended. And there are now 20 states with Trump abortion bans.
Yeah, she got a $60 million Spotify deal. In late spring of 2020, Cooper and Franklin were engaged in a publicized dispute with Barstool founder David Portnoy, which resulted in Franklin leaving the show. Cooper reached an agreement with Barstool and continued hosting the podcast on her own.
Including bans that make no exception for incest, which we just discussed, which means that you're telling a survivor of a crime of a violation to their body they don't have a right to make a decision about what happens to their body next, which is immoral. So this is the same guy that is now saying that. This is the same guy who said that women should be punished for having abortions. This is the same guy who uses the kind of language he does to describe women. So, yeah, there you go.
I do want to focus on abortion for a moment because 2 years ago, Roe v. Wade was overturned and women lost their constitutional right to an abortion. I put out an episode about it. I flew to North Carolina. Yeah. I went to a preferred women's health center. I met with women that were getting screamed at and chanted at and called baby killers. And it was...
Pew says women under 30 demographic are 65% Democrat, 30% Republicans. So yeah, this audience is very conservative for the demo. Thank you. That's what I was saying.
It's the most eye-opening experience I've ever had, because I am a privileged white woman that lives in Los Angeles, and I am so.
I just love that conservative women just don't care about bodily autonomy. What a great country we have. I mean, what are you supposed to do? You know, you want Kaya to come in? Come on.
Aware of that. I understand that a lot of the younger generation sees things online and is like, what is right? What is wrong? What is real? What is not? Can you explain and talk about what is actually happening to abortion access right now in this country?
Yeah. So again, I thank you for what you've been doing and at the earliest stage of this and following the stories. So, you know, on public policy, I often tell my team, look, I don't want to hear about public policy is a fancy kind of speech or paper. Tell me how it'll affect a real person. So let's talk about how it affects a real person. The majority of women who receive abortion care are mothers. So if she's in a state, and by the way, every state in the South, except for Virginia, has an abortion ban, okay? So imagine she's in a state with an abortion ban. 1 out of 3 women are, by the way, in our country. And she's a mom. So she's going to have to figure out, one, God help her if she has affordable childcare. God help her if she has paid leave. And then she's going to have to go to the airport, stand in a TSA line.
Please tell me this white woman redeems herself by asking about Palestine, please. I doubt it. I don't think that this is, no.
Sit on a plane next to a perfect stranger to go to a city where she's never been to receive the care she needs. She's going to probably have to get right back on that plane because she's got those kids. Her best friend's probably not with her because that's who's taking care of the kids. To get back in that TSA line, to get back on a plane, to go home.
This is not a CIA affiliated podcast, man. Shut up. No, it's not. That person was just joking on the bulwark, which is crazy. Holy, now I'm spreading misinformation. Jesus Christ. No matter how much I corrected it, I'm joking. Oh, okay. Well, thank God you're joking. But others, please understand, this is not, Bill Kristol is not involved in all her daddy.
And that's all if they can even afford the plane ticket or the bus ticket.
Exactly.
Because when Roe v. Wade was overturned, I remember my DMs were flooded with thousands of women begging me to help. And it's overwhelming. And I can't even imagine, I'm saying that in front of you, but it's overwhelming. And I remember people begging me like, I just need to afford a bus ticket so I can get out of this abortion desert that I live in the South, so I can get to a state. But they can't even afford, you know what I mean? So it's like these people are literally landlocked into a position that they don't want to be.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing is that you don't have to abandon your faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government shouldn't be telling her what to do. If she chooses, she'll talk to her priest, her pastor, her rabbi, her imam, but not the government telling you what to do. And that's what's so outrageous about it, is a bunch of these guys up in these state capitals are writing these decisions because they somehow have decided that they're in a better position to tell you what's in your best interest than you are to know what's in your own best interest. It's outrageous.
It's outrageous. I mean, daddy gang, to put it in our TikTok terms, I have seen girls on the street walk up to men and be like, do you know where a tampon goes? Do you know how many tampons we use? Do you even know how, like, do you know what a X or Y or Z is of a part of our, and they don't know the answer.
I was the first vice president or president to ever in office go to a reproductive healthcare clinic, ever.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that, but I guess that makes sense.
That's crazy, by the way. That is actually nuts. God damn, the Democratic Party is so unimaginably conservative. What, dude? I remember a time when unironically people were just like, yeah, we can't be funding, like, you know, we can't fund abortion clinics, dude, with federal funds. Like, this country is so goddamn captive to the most insane right-wing sociopaths, dude. Holy one of the best issues on the ballot and one of the best audience to discuss it with, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, this is not a bad podcast appearance, especially if they're talking about abortion, reproductive rights, how she will defend it, all that. It's not bad if you want to win the election, because the reality is every move in this direction counts for the election. This is the exact opposite of going to Wyoming and doing a country is over party with Liz Cheney, and you celebrate Dick Cheney endorsing you there. Like, this is the exact opposite of that. This is at least in the smart direction in terms of campaigning.
Sense.
To your point.
And yet the men are making the decisions about our bodies.
And here's the other thing about this point, it's about IVF treatments and access. It's about access to contraception, which is very much at risk with these folks.
Remember the stem cell research bans? Of course I remember. That's back when, like, online atheists used to hate the Bush administration because they were anti-science. And then they literally adopted the Bush administration's most aggressive stance against Islam and decided Obama was too pro-Muslim and maybe a Muslim himself. Every single person online that used to, with the exception of Kyle Kalinske, okay, every single online atheist, and I know all this because, you know, I, at least at that point, was like obviously familiar with the Young Turks. Kyle Kalinske was one of the only atheists online, like annoying atheists online, who didn't fall into that trap. Every single one. I mean, he was always anti-IDPOL, and that's fine. That's whatever. But he was never like doing it in a mean-spirited way. Thank you for giving Kyle the respect that he deserves. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to do that with his haircut, but yeah. Secular talk, right? His hair is cool, fam. I mean, I've liked Kyle for years, okay? Come on. I love Kyle. Listen, Kyle Kalinske was one of the very few outspoken online atheists that didn't make that transition from the Bush administration to the Obama administration and like totally decided like Islam is the greatest enemy of the Western world and the Western world is superior and we must defend it unconditionally.
It is about, back to the point about reproductive health clinics. You know what those clinics also do? They do PAPs. They do.
Kyle Fieri gonna take you to secular town? Stop.
Breast cancer screenings. They do HIV testing. And they're having to close in many places with these bans. So think about the fact that for anyone who has gone to one of these clinics, you understand that it is sometimes the most trusted place where people receive that kind of health care, because they walk into those places that are generally staffed by people who create a safe place for people to come in without judgment. So anyone seeking any kind of reproductive health care and wanting to go to a place where they feel safe and without judgment, these clinics have often been the place that people can go. And many of them are having to close because of these laws.
I was raised Catholic, and abortion is a sin. And when I put out that episode, I had a lot of women reach out to me saying like, wow, I live in the South and I never thought about it that way. Like, maybe I am pro-choice because I won't get an abortion because of my religion, but why should we control what someone else wants to do?
And you know what's interesting, Alex, to your point, what I'm finding as I travel, people who before 2 years ago, before Roe v. Wade was overturned, people who felt very strong about that they are anti-abortion, are now seeing what's happening and saying, I didn't intend for all this to happen. And I think that's also why in state after state, so-called red states and so-called blue states, when this issue has been on the ballot, the American people are voting for freedom. Because ultimately it's about, look, this is not about imposing my thoughts on you in terms of what you do with your life or your body. It's actually quite the opposite. It's saying the government shouldn't be telling people what to do.
Hi, Daddy Gang. Thank you so much.
Being born is a sin to Catholics until you get baptized. Yep, went to high school in the DFW. It's like an odd mix of secular housing and weird evangelical. Someone in my creative writing class wrote a poem from the POV of a baby getting aborted, and it was so weird. Like, who thinks of that? Freaks, man. Hi, Daddy Gang. I'm here with the vice president, and she's being so slay. Oh, here.
There's no reward for being stupid. And then finally, you can't make this stuff up. Finally, the last couple of days, the vice president goes on some show called Call Her Daddy or Call Your Daddy or Who's Your Daddy or something. Call Me Daddy. I like Who's Your Daddy better. And
I like Who's Your Daddy better. Next time, you don't like the police. Next time you get into an altercation, call a crackhead. Oh, Choice, dude. I hate this freak. I hate him so much.
And among other things, she's talking about tampons.
And then finally, call her daddy. Isn't the same asshole told an Arabic woman to stick her head in a bag? Yes. By the way, before you say there's no reward for being stupid, well, he's stupid. Dog, he's literally a Rhodes Scholar, okay? If there is a perfect demonstration of LARP, it is him. No, he is not stupid, okay? He, much like many of the politicians, especially on the Republican side, are incredibly well educated, oftentimes from Harvard and Yale. He just happens to be from Louisiana. He went to Oxford, dude. He's not stupid. He's just a ginormous piece. He is also very racist.